The sound of sizzling fries filled the air as customers chatted and workers rushed behind the counter. It was just another busy evening at a McDonald's in downtown Kansas City. Nobody expected anything unusual. People stood in line, parents watched their kids play in the corner, and employees hurried to take orders. But then, the front door swung open, and the atmosphere in the restaurant shifted. Patrick Mahomes had just walked in. Some gasped, others whispered, recognizing the man who had led the Kansas City Chiefs to victory countless times. He was not there to make an appearance. He just wanted a quick meal. But what happened next would turn this simple visit into a national controversy that nobody saw coming. Patrick Mahomes stepped up to the counter, adjusting his red Kansas City Chiefs hat, a symbol of pride for every fan in the city. He scanned the menu as he waited in line, his presence drawing quiet murmurs from those around him. A young boy in a Mahomes jersey tugged at his father's sleeve, pointing excitedly. A few people pulled out their phones, trying to discreetly capture the moment. Patrick smiled as he placed his order, his voice casual. "I will have a double cheeseburger, extra pickles, and a large sweet tea." The cashier, a teenage employee who could barely contain her excitement, nodded quickly and started entering the order. But before she could finish, a figure emerged from the back. The store manager. His posture was stiff, his face unreadable as he walked straight toward Patrick. He folded his arms, staring at the quarterback like he had done something wrong. The room, once buzzing with conversation, fell silent. "We do not serve people wearing that here," the manager said, his voice sharp and unwavering. Patrick blinked, confused. He glanced around, expecting someone to explain that this was some kind of misunderstanding. "Excuse me?" he asked, his tone calm but firm. The manager's eyes did not waver. Instead, he gestured toward the red Chief's hat on Patrick's head. "That," he said, "is a problem." The silence in the restaurant grew even heavier. A few customers exchanged uneasy glances. Others pulled out their phones, sensing that something big was about to happen. Patrick let out a small, disbelieving laugh. "You are serious?" The manager's lips curled into a smirk. "Rules are rules. Either take it off, or you are out." A hush spread across the room. A father sitting near the window shook his head in disbelief. A woman near the drink station whispered, "This is ridiculous." The young boy in the Mahomes jersey stared wide-eyed, clutching his father's hand. The father sighed, his expression one of disappointment. This was not about a hat. It was about something much bigger, and the way Patrick Mahomes chose to respond would turn this moment into something nobody would ever forget. For a moment, Patrick Mahomes did not say a word. He just stood there, staring at the man who had just told him to take off his Chief's hat or leave. His expression did not show anger, only disbelief. The room was silent, waiting to see what he would do. A few whispers echoed through the restaurant, but nobody dared to speak too loudly. Everyone knew this was wrong. Patrick took a slow breath, his jaw tightening just slightly. "So, let me get this straight," he said, his voice controlled but firm. "You are kicking me out because of my team?" The manager crossed his arms, his smirk never fading. "I told you. We do not allow anything that promotes hate or division. That includes sports teams. This is a neutral space." Patrick let out a quiet laugh, shaking his head. A football team was promoting hate? That made no sense. He had been to dozens of McDonald's locations, had taken pictures with fans, had even bought meals for strangers before. But this? This was different. A few customers shifted in their seats, uncomfortable with what they were witnessing. The young boy in the Mahomes jersey tugged at his father's sleeve again, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why are they being mean to him?" The father sighed, his expression full of disappointment. He looked at his son, then at Patrick, then back at the manager. He could see it. This was about more than a hat. Patrick could have argued. He could have raised his voice, demanded respect, or walked out in frustration. But instead, he did something nobody expected. He turned around, scanning the room, his eyes landing on the young boy still clutching his father's hand. Slowly, Patrick reached up and removed his red chief's hat. He took a few steps forward, kneeling slightly so he was at eye level with the child. The boy's eyes widened, his tiny hands gripping the edge of his jersey. "You wear it for me," Patrick said, his voice soft but steady. He placed the hat gently on the boy's head, adjusting it so it fit just right. The boy's face lit up. The room, once filled with tension, was now filled with something else: shock, admiration, and respect. Nobody had seen that coming. But what happened next? That would turn this moment into something much, much bigger. The entire restaurant stood frozen in silence. The young boy in the Mahomes jersey touched the brim of the red chief's hat now resting on his head, his small fingers tracing the embroidered logo as if it were made of gold. His father blinked, processing what had just happened. A few customers gasped. Some exchanged stunned glances. The McDonald's manager, the man who had been so confident in his stance just moments ago, suddenly looked uncertain. This was not the reaction he had expected. He had assumed Patrick would get angry, argue, or storm out. Instead, Mahomes had turned this moment into something unforgettable. The young boy swallowed hard, his eyes shimmering with emotion. He looked up at Patrick, who gave him a small nod, a silent reassurance that everything was okay. "Are you really giving this to me?" the boy finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Patrick smiled. "It looks better on you anyway." A ripple of emotion spread across the restaurant. A teenage girl near the soda machine wiped at her eyes. An elderly couple sitting by the window exchanged knowing smiles. Even the employees behind the counter stood frozen, their hands hovering over the registers, no longer paying attention to the orders in front of them. Then a clap echoed through the room. One person, then another, then another. Suddenly, the entire restaurant erupted into applause. The McDonald's manager's face turned pale. His authority over the situation was slipping, and he knew it. His expression hardened as he tried to regain control. "This does not change anything," he snapped, his voice sharper now. "I told you, rules are rules." But Patrick Mahomes was no longer looking at him. He turned to the boy one last time, ruffled his hair, and gave him a small wink. Then, without another word, he walked out of the restaurant. The applause continued as the door shut behind him. The moment was over, or at least, that was what everyone thought, because what happened next would take this entire situation from a small McDonald's in Kansas City to the national spotlight. The moment Patrick Mahomes walked out of that McDonald's, the internet exploded. Within minutes, videos of the encounter flooded social media. Clips of the manager kicking him out, Patrick handing his hat to the young fan, and the crowd's emotional reaction spread like wildfire. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook were on fire. The hashtags #Mahomes class act, #McDonald's disaster, and #respect. The Chiefs started trending. Millions of people watched the video, and the reactions were unanimous: outrage at the McDonald's manager and admiration for how Patrick handled the situation. "Imagine kicking out the most beloved player in Kansas City over a hat," one person tweeted. Another wrote, "Patrick Mahomes just showed the world what real leadership looks like." Grace under pressure. News outlets picked up the story almost immediately. ESPN, Fox Sports, CNN, and even major morning shows ran segments about the viral moment. The footage played over and over. Patrick's calm expression, the stunned silence of the restaurant, the emotional reaction of the little boy. The McDonald's manager had no idea what he had just started. His name had not even been mentioned, but internet detectives quickly found out who he was. Within hours, his LinkedIn, Facebook, and past social media posts were flooded with angry comments. People demanded he be fired immediately. Meanwhile, Patrick Mahomes remained completely silent. He had not posted about the situation, had not commented on the backlash, had not even acknowledged what was happening online. He simply went back to his normal life, preparing for the next game. But behind the scenes, something even bigger was happening. Because while the internet raged, McDonald's corporate offices were watching, and they were not happy. At headquarters, executives held an emergency meeting to discuss the PR disaster unfolding before them. The face of the NFL, a player known for his leadership and sportsmanship, had just been humiliated inside one of their restaurants. This was not going to end well if they did not act fast. Less than 24 hours later, McDonald's made a huge announcement, and what they said would leave America stunned. By the next morning, McDonald's corporate office had no choice but to respond. The pressure was overwhelming. Customers were furious. The internet was demanding answers. News stations were calling for statements. And then, finally, McDonald's released an official statement. We are aware of the unfortunate incident that took place at one of our Kansas City locations involving Patrick Mahomes. McDonald's does not support discrimination of any kind, and we sincerely apologize to Mr. Mahomes and his fans. Effective immediately, the manager involved in this incident is no longer employed by McDonald's. The moment the news broke, the internet erupted. Some people cheered, while others felt it was too little, too late. The damage had already been done, but what happened next was something nobody expected. Patrick Mahomes had remained completely silent about the situation. No statements, no interviews, nothing. But when reporters finally caught up with him after a Chiefs practice, they asked him what he thought about McDonald's firing the manager. Patrick just smiled. I was never looking for someone to lose their job, he said. But I do believe in respect. And if this moment makes people think twice before judging someone over something as simple as a hat, then maybe something good comes out of it. That should have been the end of it. But Patrick Mahomes was not done yet. Later that evening, he released his own statement. But instead of demanding anything for himself, he made a request to McDonald's. I appreciate McDonald's for taking action, but instead of focusing on one bad moment, let's turn this into something positive. I am asking McDonald's to donate meals to underprivileged kids in Kansas City. Let us take this negative situation and make it about helping people who really need it. The internet exploded again. People praised Mahomes for handling the situation with class, leadership, and a bigger vision. McDonald's agreed. Within 24 hours, they announced a major food donation initiative in Kansas City, all in Patrick Mahomes' name. A situation that started with a small moment of disrespect had turned into a nationwide movement of kindness and generosity, and all because one man chose dignity over anger. In a world where anger fuels every debate, Patrick Mahomes proved that grace can win battles too. Instead of letting the moment turn ugly, he turned it into something meaningful. A single moment in a fast food restaurant became a national conversation about respect, leadership, and kindness. What do you think? Was this the best way to handle the situation, or should Patrick have fought back? Let us know in the comments. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more incredible NFL stories. Stay tuned for the next shocking and inspiring tale from the world of football.